So this is amazing. We're on camera now.
We're on camera?
Yeah, we're on camera.
Wait a minute, let me get some chapstick.
Chapstick.
You made me smile so much, man. My
There you go.
chapped.
There you go. First of all, thank you very much for having us on a Sunday. I know it's church day, and we're just doing this big road trip from Philly to Minnesota, and
that's cool.
Yeah,
it's a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you, sir. We heard a lot of stuff, and we were very fortunate to. On this trip to meet a lot of stuff and see a lot of stuff, meet a lot of people and see a lot of stuff. Yesterday we were just at the Purple Mile, which is another trademark of slot car racing, the biggest track ever from the 60s that the guy brought here to the Boston area, and it's
where was that?
It's in Ashland.
Oh,
Ashland, yeah. We were just there yesterday, and that was something that I really want to see. Apparently they made only 8, and this is the Survivor from the 60s, and Mr. Richard Payne put back together, and the track is just amazing. And this is another.
That's neat.
That's another treat. That's the perks of the
this
job.
Is different. This is different than the commercial commercial raceways. You know.
We were talking about and I want to hear again the labels that you have. You have the Speed Freaks, and what is the other one?
Well, I guess a buddy of mine coined that phrase of scale heads versus speed heads.
Speed heads, scale heads.
You guys spend a lot of time talking about straightening axles. And,
oh wow!
But this is your thing, you know. And there's guys who enjoy that, and I love to go watch that.
Yeah.
I love to go watch it. And I've been an engineer all my life. You know, I redesigned my house. I rebuilt everything.
We're going to talk
I've been
about
here
that.
50 years.
We're going to talk about that.
But the point is, I do enjoy tweaking a car. But you know what the bottom line is for me, guys, is I need 20 guys here to run this track. I mean, it ends up being so big. It's 155 foot, 1 lap. And on it, you can actually do 2 laps without negotiating the same turn. So that would be what? 300 feet without negotiating the same turn.
Well, that's driving.
Twice.
That's driving.
That's driving.
Yeah.
But so, you know, I do enjoy doing that. But what happens is when you tell guys, they come here and you tell them, all right, guys, you can go buy straighter axles than the stock. And you got a couple of guys who are really into doing that, and they start beating the other guys.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty soon, the other guys aren't as anxious to come over and race. And I end up with maybe 3 or 4 guys who want to race. That's what happened at the beginning of this. And I said, you know, what I would like to do is do club races, box stock, don't modify anything, come and enjoy your models. And there was a class of guys too, again, that I call scaleheads, that don't want to put their creation at risk.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yes.
You know, they do a lot of detail. And,
Yeah.
you don't want to have to redo it.
That's the club in Germany that we're talking about, Michael Niemann.
Oh, yeah, he's unbelievable.
If you crash once, they stop the track, stop the neighborhood. What happened? Oh my God. Okay, so they put it back, and if you crash again, you're out. Just leave the city, please. Get out of here. You put everybody at risk.
I feel for him. I understand 100%. Are those 124th scale or 132nd? Those are the big scale. Yeah. So. But
there's another thing that I feel like when you told me that you've been working on this track for 40 years. 40 years ago, you don't.
40.
I know. 40 years ago, you didn't have the option of straighten axles. The cars were kind of really bad back then, right?
My friend, 40 years ago.
We're talking about 94.
Yeah, but...
No, 84.
84.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are too young to understand.
I was born in 81.
Yeah, but understand this. The high point for slot cars was maybe 1963. And I was just coming into being a teenager, and it was really popular for people back then, right? For young kids. And that's why it's so, the adrenaline comes up for guys my age, because they got a little bit of expendable income now, you know, and they go to your website and see all these beautiful cars. When I was a kid and they had commercial racetracks, most of the guys that I knew in my neighborhood had sets at home. in their basement.
Okay.
So you had those guys who had those sets, and then
go to the raceway.
And then you had the guys who would go to commercial racetracks.
They're not the same?
No, because as was my experience, I was having fun with my Strombecker
set.
And I had a Ferrari. It was my favorite car. It was a Revell Ferrari. I put it together. I got it when I was 13 years old. And it ran great on my plastic track, and we had a lot of fun because the cars competed. And when I went to the commercial track, it was a dog. Because those guys, maybe they were older teenagers and they had money to spend, and they would get hotter motors. There weren't restrictions like today. Today, people enjoy racing Trans Am, racing Group C, racing modern sports cars.
Back in the day, everything was mixed.
Whatever you threw out on the track. So there were guys with no interiors, no windshield. The cars were super light, and they'd kick your ass.
Yeah.
It's no fun to get your ass kicked. You don't go back.
You need a group. You need some restrictions.
Yeah, but I'm telling you how it was in the 60s, right? Well, little by little, guys were getting their motors rebuilt. In fact, Professor Motor, that's where he got his nickname, because he was rewinding motors for people. They were rewinding motors for people and making them go faster. So if you could afford to pay somebody to rewind your motor, and I couldn't, I'm not going to race anymore.
I was just looking if I'm sitting weird, because sometimes I just look like a big meatball here doing this, so I need to see my posture.
You're fine.
I'm not that. But sometimes it's just like I see this, oh my God, what I was doing. So I ask him sometimes.
So you got to do a lot of editing, eh?
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah.
That's you?
He needs to
Good
cut off.
You do a good job because it flows nice.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Needs to cut off my bad English sometimes. And you see that when you start to bellow and say nothing, just cut that thing off. He doesn't get it.
Well, listen, I want to finish making my point because I don't want to sound like I'm dissing the speedhead crowd at all. But in my heart, I know that's what killed slot cars in the early 70s. There were commercial tracks everywhere. In all neighborhoods
Some
had a
say there
commercial
was
slot car
3,500 in the United
There
States.
were. It was wonderful. It was fantastic.
Actually, yesterday I was at Modelville, and there's I'm going to have to read this here for you. So there's like a letter on the wall from a gentleman called Arthur Gonçalves. He was a wholesale hobbyist distributor and he says here, since 1929, his company, right? So he sends a letter that says, "Dear sir, I see that you are interested in opening a slot car racing center. Many track owners refer to it as a license to print money." And then he continues, a license to print money.
It was very popular. It was very popular. But once the guys, your peers, your other teenagers whose dad would give them the money to get a motor rebuilt, you couldn't compete anymore. When you don't compete, you don't want to be put to shame. You know what?
And then gets frustrated.
It's just like real. It's no different than real racing. Cars get faster, and other guys got to spend more money to become faster, and pretty soon it chokes itself, right?
But that's when the rules and regulations need to
exactly. But there were no rules and regulations here, and you know what, Marcos? It choked itself. By the time I bought this house and wanted to build a slot car track in the basement, I couldn't buy slot cars. There were what they called womp cars. There were still guys who would race at the commercial 80s, tracks.
Parma motors and stuff.
Exactly. But they weren't to scale. They were flying wings. You guys do what, 6 or 7 seconds a lap?
Yeah.
Some of those things with wings and glue were 3 seconds. 3, 4, So it was out of my league and a lot of my buddies. We were racing like
scale.
It
was out of scale. Yeah.
So that's my point. That's where the scale head versus speed head comes from.
But I think it's a different way to enjoy the hobby. There are people who just collect. They don't even race.
It is.
We have a customer who has a Carvalho digital set, and he asks us to make replicas of real cars. Like as long as he chooses one race, let's say GT3 Macau 2019. So Carrera makes 5 cars of those. Collector makes 2 more, and he asks us to replicate 5 or 6 more. so he can put on the Carrera track and just watch.
Yeah, that's me. That's me. You know, guys, when I run this track, I don't race. I don't have a controller in my hand. I just like to see everybody's scale models
Having
going
fun.
around at speed. It's wonderful. But yeah, so since I couldn't get any cars, I was going to toy shows, and I wanted to build a track, and I would collect every broken slot car I could find. The Toledo Toy Show in particular was really big. I don't know if you
They're
guys
still
have
going
heard
on,
about
right?
that.
Yeah.
It's still going on. And again, I had bins and bins of parts. I'd actually take the cars apart and separate them from Revell, Monogram, whatever, Stromberg or whatever cars I could get. And that's how I would build my own cars. The cars that I had as a little kid when I went to college got messed up. I mean, everybody has that story where their mom cleans the bedroom and all of a sudden they disappear. You know, so that's what happened to me. But I still had a love for fine scale racing, and I always loved watching racing. But unlike today, when I was a kid, it was on a black and white television, Marcos, and we could only watch it at 4:30 on Saturday. It was ABC's Wide World of Sports. That's the only place you could see racing, and it was so cool. I was just stuck to the screen, but they're all in black and white. And the only way you could find out what color that winning Ferrari was when the model came out at the hobby shop.
Not even the newspaper.
The box art was, oh yeah, the newspapers were black and white, dude.
Too, yeah.
I'm 71 years old. So I had a love for scale racing, you know, and I wanted to recreate a track with turns that I knew from watching races when I was a kid, you know, at Riverside, the turn 6 and 7 where they had the half buried white tires, you know, and Parnelli Jones going through there with his Trans Am car and hitting it and going up in the air, and I remembered all those things, and so did my buddies. So in about 1995, I was working as a designer at Ford Motor Company, and I was in the Jaguar program because at that time Ford Motor Company
1999, you say?
Had bought Jaguar. No, about 1995-ish.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that, but in that area.
Okay, so you're talking about the Jags, the ones with
Jaguars
the rounded center console.
Yeah, and Volvo. Ford bought Volvo and Mazda. Ford had owned those three, and since they've divested of those three. But at that time, we were working with Jaguar closely on a car that was the Do 98. We called it the Do 98. There was a Jaguar version of it in England.
Okay.
And I worked on the crash bracing on that car. And there were two engineers that I overlapped with, and they said they knew I had this track, and I was just driving cars from the 60s and 70s, you know, and modified womp cars that I tried to put new bodies on, get it as scale as I could. And they said, hey, back home, we got slot cars. You know what? It never died away over there. Why? Because of what you just mentioned. They had rules. It had to have a number. It had to have a driver, and in some cases, it had to replicate a real car that raced back in the 60s or 70s or whatever era it was. Yeah. That was great because guys didn't get their ass kicked and quit racing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I said, I got to find out, you know, where you got this car. I can show you the car. I still favor it today. They gave it to me as a gift.
Nice.
Because we would come here. The track wasn't anywhere near as decorated as today with scenery, but it was operating in 1995. And we'd come here every Wednesday and do hot laps at lunchtime. Research Engineering Center is within walking distance of my house.
When you got the house, were you working at Ford already?
When I got the house, I was only 20 years old, and I was working as a detailer at Ford Motor Company. Okay. And that's the only way I could swing a mortgage.
Okay, so around here at Dearborn.
Oh, yeah. I used to walk
because getting a house and then getting a job a block away, that's kind of easy.
No. I was born and raised in this neighborhood, so I knew it. In fact...
Is your family from this neighborhood? Is your family related to Ford?
My dad worked at the Rouge plant.
Okay.
My dad worked at the Rouge plant. They were both Maltese, and they came here from Malta, like, you know, most immigrants, and started from scratch. And I cherished every car I got for Christmas. You know, I didn't take any of my slot cars or anything that had to do with slot cars for granted. Because with my dad, if you couldn't eat it or wear it, you didn't need it.
Yeah, well, I see it.
I remember when I was 13 years old, and I wanted this 63 Ferrari. It was a Revell kit. It comes in a box, a beautiful box out on it. I went to the hobby shop so many times and asked him if I could just hold it and fondle it, that he stopped letting me hold it, and I wanted it real bad. And with my dad, he says, you're 13, you get $13. We're going to the bank tomorrow. I bugged my mom, that Ferrari's $13, that Star Hobby, and she said, okay, just go get it. So I rode my bike down the street, got it, man. I cherished that thing. I was holding that box. I was so happy. I came home and my dad looked at that and said, that doesn't look like a car. He's used to building fair lanes at the assembly plant, Oh, man, I was so disappointed. But then when I put it together and showed him, it was a little bit different. So my point is, it meant so much to me, every one of those cars. And they still do today. Yeah. I toned down my collecting, and I like to make scratch-built cars now or modify them.
There's a bunch of stuff going on here. Yeah. Even the displays are scale models. I see Le Mans here. I see Daytona right there.
Talladega
right here, and they're kind of placed as the starting line.
Yeah.
Even that one, it looks like accurate at 66 Le Mans. Even the
it's not done yet. It's not done yet.
Yeah, it's missing a couple cars, but it's right there. It's right there. Very nice. So you told me that you bought this house at 21. You got married 50 years ago, and you've been working on this track for 40.
50 years ago.
50 years ago, got married. 4 years working on this track. Which one is harder?
Oh, that was in tandem. It was in tandem. Let me tell you this. My wife likes arts and crafts architecture, and this was a post-war ranch.
Sure.
And we had 3 boys who wanted to make it bigger. So a little at a time.
How old are they now?
In their 40s.
In their 40s.
Yeah,
so
in their 40s.
Just in the beginning.
Yeah.
Beginning of the marriage.
Oh, right. Yeah, 40 years
So you're
ago.
working with 4 projects now. The kids, the house, the wife, and the track.
And my GT350 in the garage.
Yeah, I saw that one. For how long do you have that one?
In 84.
84. Okay.
Yeah,
so 84 was a kind of a big year.
Well, oh yeah, it was a very big year. It was a very big year.
Did you have a kid that was born in 85?
I got my tenure at Ford's. I got 10 years at Ford, so I knew I was going to get a retirement. Up to then, it was tight sailing, man, for me and my wife. Getting married at 20 and 19 years old.
That's good.
But we did it. I'm very happy.
Yeah.
So yesterday was our 50th anniversary, and we had a big
Congratulations.
Party. That's why I look a little bit saggy. I don't usually look like this.
Party hard.
So, I would
Where are
work
the
on
kids
a
now?
house.
You can call it them kids anymore. They're older.
No. My sons I've got 8 grandkids.
My God.
We come down here and race. So
that's
Friday.
the grandpa place now.
Oh, yeah, I am. Everybody on YouTube knows me as Uncle Jim, because I'm on Lunch King, a site called Lunch King, where a nephew of mine started this YouTube video that showed different lunch places.
Yeah.
But he wasn't getting the looks. And he says, Uncle Jim, I'd really like to do something on your track,
By the way, if you want to watch this, it's going to be on the link below. We're going to post this link too, so we can just go there and find out more about Jim's track.
Okay.
We're going to show some pictures of your track now, but it's like I think the video that your nephew did was much more
in depth.
About the track. Yeah.
In depth, yeah. And I did not do it to show my track off, In fact, it was quite a secret. I remember during COVID, we couldn't go anywhere. I take care of my 95-year-old mother upstairs. And we couldn't go anywhere, and we didn't want the grandkids coming over to bring it because of my mother,
Hard.
So I spent 2 years straight redoing that section of the track back over there. And the original track is underneath it, but it had some flaws. The turns were too tight. You couldn't see the car going into the Detroit tunnel, so I had to bring it out. Long story short, I was down here 7 hours a day, 7 days a week. I was in heaven. But I told Pam, I come upstairs though, and I told Pam, man, I'm doing all this work. No one ever sees it. No one ever sees it. And then
not only he add decoration, but he's now adding archaeology because there's a track underneath the new track.
Yeah, you're right.
In
somebody
200
that
years,
up.
and someone look at this cover is going to be on the cover. Oh, Slotcar track, man.
There is. That's
Slotcar
right.
cave has like archaeology.
Yeah, that's true. But I owe a lot to my wife because she allowed me to have this whole basement. I've had buddies who come, hey, yeah, lay something out for me, will you? Okay, well, we work something out. And pretty soon, no, just this little tiny corner of the basement. Well, why can't you go bigger over here? Well,
My wife. That's my wife, doesn't it?
Who else is blessed with a wife who would allow him to have this? And she's never parked. We've been here 50 years. She's never parked a car in a garage. I've had my GT350 replica in there. When you restore a car, it takes like three spaces.
Yeah.
So, long story short, I've been blessed. I've been blessed in a lot.
So some people
ways.
say that it's the technology that tried to kill slot cars. Some people say that it's just the computers and the video games. Maybe we should start to consider the wives. Maybe that's one of the reasons.
Well, it's a kind of a neat secret hobby because you don't have to involve the wife,
For April 1st, we want to put an ad saying that if you buy something in Electric Dreams, your invoice is going to come with like lawnmower parts or whatever it is, shaving equipment.
Right. Shavers, and you put it together when you get it.
So we're going to do that at some point.
No, but my point is that I've been blessed. So during the summer, I work on my car. I've been working on that for 40 years. I just finally got the engine in it. And I've been working on it. Yeah. I'm not the type of I'm enjoying my wrenching. I'm enjoying doing it.
So you got the car for 4 years and you've been driving for 5?
I haven't been driving it at all.
Okay, so it's still drivable. It's not like you had an engine out for 4 years.
No, the car, I took the whole car apart, body in white. There was nothing left of it but the body, and I started from scratch.
Oh my God, so many projects.
Yeah, but the point is I take my time. But most people push to get it done. And I've been laughed at, too, because the guys would come down here to race, and my house is just in girders and beams because I'm undertaking a renovation, you know what I mean? That takes time.
So how do you feel having your 5th anniversary with all your projects done? The kids are raised and have truck. The track is done. The car is working. The house is beautiful.
Fulfilled.
See, you've done it. You've done it, man. Is that a new project that I don't see it? No, yes. Right? It's done, right?
My friends, I am so blessed. I mean, and I come down here. You know what? When I come down here after working on the car, and I've been down here a lot.
Sir, you're a string of hope for everybody who has a car down there, a house halfway done, or a track that they never finished, or boxes, because everything is so neat here. Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's the trip, not the destination. That's why I look
there you
at
go.
It,
We can leave now. That's all.
I can be down here, but then my point was that I complained to my wife, and then my nephew had the idea. Well, let's show it to people. Well, the thing got 1 million views inside of a week. I couldn't believe it.
Beautiful video too. Not only what are they showing, but the video is very well done.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious about that. That's why you have the success.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, I didn't do it to get a pat on the back, but when I saw all the nice comments people were returning over the video, how did you do this? How did you do that? So I says, okay, well, I'll set up a camera, and while I'm doing something and setting up, how do I make my own gravel? How do I make my own trees? That's what I've been doing.
Very nice.
But Ryan's got a girlfriend now, and he graduated from college, and he's working to get a job. So things have slowed down a little bit, but I still try to, help him out with a video here or there. So it's not every week like it used to be.
It's still
life gets in the way.
Yeah, but it's not the priority now. But look at this. Yeah. Look at how you accomplished it. And I'm glad that you could see those YouTube comments and you praised by them, because that's your recognition of the work that we've been doing here.
And Marcos, I blush sometimes when I read some of the nice things that people say. And I had a website when I developed this AC2 car system. I have a website called AC2CAR.com, and in it I explained how this system works in detail.
Okay.
And every day for
we
about...
can put the link now. I was asking about you giving me like a glimpse of what the system does.
Yeah.
And then we can put the website so people can...
Okay, we'll do that. And the point I was going to make was that I get nice comments on YouTube, but when I had that .com and I couldn't get personal with people, I would get a lot of trolls who would just say, I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. Absolutely. Yeah, it's demeaning. Like, why is this guy? And I would write back to these people, not realizing the type of, he's probably a guy who hasn't taken a bath in a week, and I'm talking about is in his underwear in front of his computer.
Oh, there's a meme because of the Olympics. There was a meme. This girl is doing like a gymnastics and just like a flip, and then she falls and cuts to the guy in the couch without just the underwear eating Cheetos. Oh, you're a sucker. So that's it.
Yeah, so you see what I see.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, but at that time I didn't see it. I had just retired in 1995, and I spent the day just helping people everywhere build these tracks and try to answer some of the questions that these trolls were trying to just mess me up with, and I stopped doing it. But I'm very glad today that people appreciate the videos, and YouTube gives us an ability to be able to see stuff and feel stuff.
It's a good community, and I think slot car racing is a community that people kind of protects each other.
Oh yeah,
we have some trolls sometimes, and when we post like nice stuff, and people just, this is not true, this is this and that, like they know everything. But we have to live with it. I think the work we do is to promote promote the hobby as a whole.
Absolutely. Get young people excited about it.
And if you're against it, if you want to say something bad, and if you want to make it public, good for you.
And the sad thing, Marcos, is that those trolls are 1 in 100 or 1 in maybe 1,000, but they stand out, don't they?
Yeah.
That's the bad thing.
I have a friend who's a comedian, a friend of ours actually. He's a very popular comedian in Brazil. And he has a podcast with like over 3 million subscribers. And he was in LA and he wanted to interview me about Los Angeles and stuff and my life in Los Angeles. And the first night that, after 24 hours, let's see the comments. Oh, God. Gets personal. People don't know me and just go like for physical stuff. And it's just
it's pathetic.
When you see there's somebody talking about my mom, they don't even know. So then you just gave up. It's just
you're making me blush because I remember how it was.
Yeah, focus on the positive ones and go for it.
So I wasted a lot of time doing that, and I stopped doing that. And I'm very thankful for Gus and Ryan to come down here and do videos on it. But back to trying to get young people involved. For the past, I'd say, 15 or 20 years, the first Friday of every month, through the wintertime mostly, September through March, April, I open the doors to fathers and sons or moms and daughters to come down here and race. And I remember I had this, I was a scoutmaster, and you're taught, try not to be by yourself alone with one of the boys, because that's not the right thing to do. You've got to have other people, other witnesses around you. And I had this one little fella knocking on my door, and he introduced himself, and he was only about 6 or 7. And he says, "Oh, you have a GT350 in the garage." And I said, "Well, yeah, it's a replica. I'm working on it." He saw at that time I painted the hood, and he saw the blue stripes, right? And I thought, wow, this kid knows cars, right? And he says, and then the punchline, and you have a slot car track? Like that, I didn't know this guy, this young fella at all. I said, "Well, I'd like to show it to you, but my wife is not home. Come back later with some friends."
Sure.
Well, I mean, an hour later, he had these other guys, all pumped
there was a queue on the corner.
And my wife was home, so we came downstairs. And Marcos, when he opened that door coming downstairs, he went, just like that, and he stopped breathing. He was short; he couldn't see the whole thing, and I was taken by that, And that's when I opened my doors every Friday to have the neighborhood kids and it turned out my 8 grandchildren would come down here, and race on that Friday.
How old is the older grandchildren?
The oldest now is 21. Yeah, Will's 21 or 22. Oh, I got pictures of him when he couldn't even see over the track. And it was car down.
Car down. Stop, please.
Yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit of technicalities about the ACR system that you're just talking about?
The AC2 car?
AC2 car.
Alternating current, 2 cars at one time in one slot. I developed this idea way before there was digital systems. And today there's some beautiful digital systems out there, but you're paying the price. I started to tell you earlier that I've got $300 in wood and copper on this track, and the underpinnings were made from scrap wood from my old garage that I tore down.
You're bragging about the low price of wood that you have in this track, but remember, that was 1984.
No, that's
$300,
right.
You can just
Correct.
get 2 sheets
that
at Home
was
Depot.
40 years ago.
And one's going to break in the parking lot.
Yeah, and I didn't have MDF, medium density fiberboard, which is great to use today for tracks. I had chipboard, the kind of stuff you find glued underneath Formica countertops that when it gets wet, it swells. Yeah, that's what I made this out of. So that had a lot of cracks and crinkles.
Where did you cut the wood? You have done here and then vacuum and.
Oh, I built. It wasn't like this. When I bought this house, I came down the stairs and there was nothing but black tile and white walls all the way around. And I thought, oh man, this is perfect, for the slot car track. And I built it up from there. But before I put the ceiling up and did the decoration around the walls, it didn't look like this. I was working on that track. I hand cut. Today you can have things CNC'd, that's the only way to do it, right?
Home, yeah.
I cut every one of those slots. What was it? I can't remember how many feet. 5,000 feet of slot, 1/8 inch wide, 1/4 inch deep, by hand like this, following a line.
With a router.
With a router. Because most commercial tracks have a perfect radius. So you can string it or you can build templates. With mine, I'm recreating real racetracks at
different slots.
Different places around the country, around the world, actually. So it had to meander, and I had to cut it by hand. So I wanted to build a track that was to scale, because I'm more of a fine scale modeler than I am a speedhead wanting to make the car go fast. And in order to do that, I had to come up with a way to get the track to go about 12 to 13 inches wide, which is to scale. If you took a picture of Riverside back then,
you can see
it's narrow. Cars. You got 2 cars or maybe 3 that could possibly pass. Well, the commercial tracks to run 6 cars is 28.
40 inches between lanes.
Right, it's really big. So I came up with the idea that I'll group all the slots together on one side, and there'll be 4 guys driving, so you'll have lane 1, 2, 3, 4, and it'll go all the way around the track on one side of the track. And then when you get to the hairpin turn, just like real racing, they only go through their single file. You rarely see 2 abreast through a hairpin.
It's very, very unusual, because sometimes you see 4 lanes, sometimes you see 7 lanes, sometimes you see 6.
The definition is that at that hairpin turn, you can cut to the other side of the track, and on that side of the track, you have a slot on that side of the track that is designated for you.
It's a lot of
1,
work,
2, 3. It is.
That's why the marriage is lasting so long.
Oh,
We've been here for 25
I was
years.
Out of her hair.
You've been here locked in.
The hairpin turn was on that workbench, sitting there for a year and a half, testing. Because I was breaking new ground. I didn't want to put all that time and effort into it and it not work, So I got the cars. My friends call the switching, and you can go to the Lunch King channel and see how I made the switches.
Okay.
They call them
That's the technical video you're going to see.
Fred Flintstone switches. I mean, they're really rude and crude. I went to a Navy surplus shop, and I got stainless steel solenoids. When they get 12 volts, they pull.
Stainless steel for don't get rust or anything.
Yeah, because underneath underneath here, this was a basement, and I thought, oh boy, it's going to hang up. Man, Marcos, they're still working. 38 years later. So I was able to find a way to get the car's driver by pushing a button on his controller. Pushing a button on the back of his controller.
Okay.
You hear that? Okay. That means that he's coming down the hairpin turn. He's holding this button down, and his car changes to the other side of the track.
Sure, here. The controller doesn't come that way. No,
Here.
we'll show later.
Okay.
We'll show later.
Okay.
So the controller has a black and white, and the brake you change for like a telephone that connects to the track.
Yeah, this telephone jack is what connects the wiring technically.
Carlos can make an insert for this so we can talk.
Yeah.
But then you have caution, which is, I believe, lowers the voltage of the track.
No, it does not. When you push this button,
okay,
all around the track, caution lights come on all around the track. And I have a friend who's colorblind, so I had to put my brother helped me put that big yellow one on there. And and this is mostly for the kids, if their car crashes and absolutely blocks the track, they push this button,
and then it stops
the red lights come. It does not stop the track. I could have made it stop the track. I want the kids to learn to drive. You know what I mean?
So the red one is just like, be aware there is a car in the middle of.
Stop. You stop.
Oh, you stop.
You stop. This track runs 8 cars, and I tell the guys, the last guy to stop, I want to see your butt going up the stairs. You're out of here. You know, and that perks them up, and they pay attention then after that. Because you got a model, and again, fine scale. You may pay $50, $60, $70 for it. Then you spend a week really making it look sweet. You don't want somebody T-boning you on this track. And because it's so narrow, that's the kind of thing that happens. You cannot stop on this track. But also, we were talking about the wiring going down for the lane changing. If you push this button, Carlos, you enter the pits. Right here, there's a switch.
Yeah.
And the car climbs that hill and can pull into the pits. The pits aren't done yet. I'm still working on it.
I see there's columns there, but not
yeah, I haven't finished that.
But so, if I'm in any lane, if I press this button, I'm gonna get to the pits. Or should I be on?
You're in the passing lane. You need to be in the passing lane.
The passing lane.
Yeah. Right. So if you do nothing, the way that the slots are laid out, that's why they cross each other so much. If you do nothing, you're going to stay on the left-hand side of the road all the way around. If you and I are racing, and I need to get by you, the next time we come through this hairpin turn, I hold this button down, and my car will change lanes. Now, I can have 155 feet to get ahead of you to get to the lane changer again. So as it works out, it's a race within a race. Mm-hmm. It's exciting because you got to get ahead of the guy so you have control. Because just like real racing, you can block each other, right? So it's a race within a race. It's hard for old school racers. I don't want to use the word speedhead. Any racer. They used to race on tracks like plastic tracks that at home you can pass anywhere. You can't pass anywhere on this track. You've got to watch your car all the way around and pick and choose where you're going to get by them. Now, one mistake I made, you had talked about, you see lanes widening and spreading. One mistake I did make is I set it up so that the closer you got to completing a lap, the wider the lanes would spread out. Because the banking at Daytona was wide anyway, so I had the opportunity to spread them out. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't add to the fun. It was just more work for nothing. So today, the tracks that I designed for people,
it looks good.
You got 4 lanes, 4 slots on one side and 4 slots on the other. But it's confusing. It may look good, but it's confusing. What do you mean
design to people? You make other tracks?
Well,
just the design, or you produce the tracks?
You know, my good friend Dave from Slot Mods, he
half an hour from here.
Yeah, he would come to me many times, and he had a track to lay out for Jay Leno, and he had a track to lay out for Bobby Rahal, and he'd begin.
Zach Brown.
Dave is very good. He's got such charisma. He's such a great guy. He'll throw a napkin in front of me, and say. Jay Leno wants a Le Mans road course that ends up in Las Vegas, the Las Vegas Strip. What would you do? You know, and so I look at it and we come up with a sketch. We have fun doing that. And in fact, that's how his track was designed. Legends, did you ever hear of the track he had in his basement? You know, when you guys did the interview with him, he shortchanged himself. Legends, that track he had in the basement was bigger than my track. And I helped him design it. I designed it for him. Dave is the type of guy, when he designs, okay, Jimmy, what I want it. This is what I want. Zoom, zoom, and then zoom, zoom, like that. This is
good.
And I gotta get it on paper. And he still does that to me today, right? Okay. But when I met Dave,
when I asked him your contact information, just say great things about you.
He said great things.
Just great things.
No, I can't say anything bad about Dave. He's a great guy. There's a knock on my door, and I go upstairs, and here's this guy holding this Valvoline T-shirt, black T-shirt, and he's standing at the door holding I never seen this guy in my life. It's Dave, right? Mm-hmm. And he says, "Hi, how would you like this T-shirt?
What?
I heard you got a slot car track here." And I said, "How did you hear that?" He says, "On the internet, I looked you up." And he looked all sheepish and everything. So he's an adult. So I said, "Yeah, come on in. And I said, "Well, here, take the T-shirt." So we come downstairs, and he came down, and much like you did when we came through the door, he was in awe. He says, "Oh my gosh, this is what I want,"
As a business, not only for me.
No, at the time, no. He did not have business on his mind. He had a good job. He was managing a print shop. Everything was fine with him at that time. And he just was a slot car guy, much younger than me, but he
thought about his adversities when he was putting his business together.
Well, he did, because he lost his job through that time, and then he would run ideas past me, and it got to the point where Dave began doing better and better tracks for people. The one track that he did for Jim Farley was, I guess Jim Farley, I met him during that time, and Jim wanted a scale model of the tower at Laguna Seca, because he was born and raised in that area, and he'd see that tower. So I did and Dave says to me, "Can you build this tower?" So I studied it, and it turns out that it's nothing but 8 telephone poles put in the ground, and then they began to put floors on it. So I recreated this, and he put it on the track that Jim Farley bought from him. And then from there, Jim Farley recommended him to build a track for the auto show, and it started here in Detroit. Yeah. So Dave says, "Okay, what can we do
First
on a
commission
track?"
job, yeah.
Yeah, and what can we do? It can't be any wood, because it's got to go to Paris, and it can't be shipped there with any wood. Can you build some bridges out of plastic? So I did that. And as it turns out, Dave is the artist of the group. And he has all those fine guys working for him now. Yeah, they do well. They have a really nice shop.
Very talented people.
Yeah, but nothing goes out the door without Dave touching it and working on it. Yeah. And then he'll get to the point where he'll call me. The deadline will be coming. "Jimmy, can you give me a hand? I need this, that." And I'll build a model for him. But you know what, guys? I don't do that anymore. Not because I don't love the guy, but because I got my own track. I got my own car.
It's an ongoing project.
You know what I mean?
We've been successful finishing those projects. Look at you.
I'm 71 years old.
It's very nice to see somebody who with a lot of dreams and a lot of projects, and it's done. You conquered.
Dave said to me, "I'd like to invite you to get you lunch. I'd like to invite you and get you lunch and come to my office, where he had a print shop." So I go to his office. He's got a napkin, and he pushes it my way. "Well, I would like a track in my basement that does AC 2-car like you got," because he got the idea that you could get a lot more track inside a given space. So we start building, and I've done this for many people, on a napkin. "Let's get this on graph paper." He says, I was like 3 hours. And we designed a track. It had to have the Le Mans hilltop, not Daytona, but Dunlop Bridge, coming down. Yeah. So I drew all that stuff in there, and it was fun. And he says, "Okay." And he looks me right in the eye, and he says, "Now what?" And I said,
"Find someone to build this thing.
You got to build it. Somebody's got to build it." And he says, "Well, I'm not very good at that."
David.
"How would you start?" Little did I know that he was not very good. I mean, I almost had to tell him which side of the the handle of the
How
hammer
long ago
was.
was this?
This was in 1996-ish.
So he was a 20-year-old something, right?
Yeah, I'm telling you. So he had a Carrera track, one of the first digital Carrera tracks, and you had a controller with no wire, but you had to aim it at a particular tower. But his track was so big, he had 100 feet of Carrera track that you couldn't. You had to. Do you ever try to race not looking at your like this? And we had a lot of fun, and he said, okay, this is the area that I'd like to build it in, I says, well, look, the first thing you should do, if you're not really handy at building bridge work, go get some milk crates, screw them together, and stack them up around the basement, and then envision the track up on top of it, cut it out of cardboard, and put it on there and check visibility lines. And that's what I recommend in the Lunch King videos. Guys, I had the most fun I had drawing my track on graph paper, enlarging it on pieces of newspaper, and bringing it down here and laying it out. That's when I had the most fun.
Just to see where it stands,
right.
Getting excited about the projects.
And Marcos, cutting out and changing things, and then it got exciting. That's what's fun. Was it a lot of work? Yeah, it was a lot of work. It took me 2 years of cutting slots and cutting wood. But I even had to build a gantry here to be able to hold things up, because I wanted the whole bottom of the track to be accessible for storage for my wife. Right. So it's based on one of those.
That's the rent.
Tubs. Yeah, that's the rent.
That's the rent.
So we built this track. And he got the milk, like in a week, he calls me up, he says, the milk crates are here. I go to his house, he's got like 30 milk crates in the basement, all screwed together. Yeah. So where do we start? I said, well, you got to do the pit straight first, And he says, can you do this? Can you sleep over one weekend? And we could really put a dent in this.
Sleep over.
Yeah. So
how far were?
And his wife Sherry is so understanding. Yeah. So he said, well, because I complain. I always told him, hey, I used to walk to work, man. You're making me drive all the way across here, and I'm not getting paid. In reality, he was giving me so many cars. He's such a generous guy. Yeah. A lot of these cars I got from Dave on the bottom of them.
Oh, nice.
So I'm staying the night with him, and Sherry, his wife, makes me a dinner. We're sitting at the dinner, and Dave and I are talking about the track, and he said, I'm going to call it Legends, because we're recreating legendary turns. And his wife she rolls her eyes and she says, how long is this going to go on? And she looks at me, and I said, honest to God, I told her,
little she knew. She knew.
Sherry, she says, how big is this going to be? And I said, Sherry, they're going to be writing songs about this track. And she goes, that's what I'm afraid of.
That's my life now. I could see it from miles.
We were in his backyard cutting slots with a buddy of mine, John Allard, holding a leaf blower behind it, just to get the dust out of there. And then we had pieces made so big we couldn't get it down the stairs. It was something. But we got it built. And to be honest with you, it was bigger.
He sold the track, right?
He cut it up. Well, his little girl, she was a sweetheart. She was like 4 years old. But when she got to be 14 to 16, they needed the space, He sold off pieces. We had made actual recreations of the tunnel at Monaco. Yeah, and he still has that tunnel up as a display in his outfit. Yeah, that's pretty cool. But anyway, that's how I met Dave, and that's what I did.
Last time that I was at his shop, he was building the Giotto factory.
That was something else,
the Fiat factory, with the track on top.
He has a good imagination how he used those die-cast cars on the inside.
Beautiful.
And lit it. Beautiful. Yeah, I never saw the final product, but I know his work. It's great.
Yeah.
So with me, this was just a labor of love. And it's for nobody but for me. And like I told you earlier, I come down the stairs, and I haven't been down in a day or two, and it just takes my breath away. But the AC2 car system, I was racing 4 cars at the time per this design of changing lanes. So 4 cars can get out of the way of each other, right? Well, I said to my brother, who's an electrical engineer, if I took 2 batteries and I changed the polarity of one car, when you change the polarity of a car, it'll go backwards, right? If I snap out the rear axle and turn it around, it'll go forward, right? So I took 2 car batteries and I wired it in with 1 car battery with positive on the left-hand side or right-hand side as it is.
And then the gear.
And the other way, and then I switched the gear. And it worked, but it was cumbersome and they overheated.
Yeah, because they were doing
my
the
brother,
running the other way around.
Yeah, my brother Joe said, well, look at, if you got an AC transformer, alternating current, 60 times a second, it changes polarity. So one car will move for 1/60th of a second, and the second car will coast. And then the next 60th of a second, car B, the second car, will get its impetus to run based on the controller on it, and the other one will coast. So we tried it, and it worked great. Not only did they run good, fast, and smooth, but I needed exact control to get cars into the pits and for all my tight turns. These turns are a lot tighter than most tracks, because I based it on real turns.
Yeah, that remembers me a lot. Stevens Far Jones that we were talking about from Glendale, from the Far Out Club. The turns are very similar.
Yeah. Well, I got more control. I could make that car just start and creep if I wanted to. Where with DC, you get it started, it shoots off, right? So with that kind of control, I had DC and AC both hooked up on this track for about 4 years because guys didn't. What is this AC? No, I don't want to put a diode in my car. I put in a 7-cent diode. Anybody comes over and we just solder it into the car, into the line with the brushes, and that's all it's necessary. That's all it needs. So what's cool is we're digital. You got to buy the manufacturers, whether it's Carrera or whatever, chip. You can bring any car here, any old car that you've been racing. We put a diode in it and go on a track and we race. So that's been a big asset here. But guys, that wasn't by design. That happened by accident,
Really?
But it works. It works. And we switched over to completely alternating current. And I took the DC 12 volts off of it. And that's what we run now today. And you can see the videos on Lunch King, and the cars run plenty fast. Yeah. And this track is not about how fast you can do a lap. It's how far ahead you can look to see who's ahead of you, who's going to block you. You're looking for slow markers all the time.
And that's in front of you.
And that's another reason that I like to have scale guys here, because they don't mind losing. So you got 8 cars racing, and you get the slow markers. If you get a bunch of speedheads and they're that slow, they're very unhappy.
Yeah.
The fun's over.
Different ways to enjoy the hobby.
No, it is, but I'm talking about my track. On my track, these guys will get unhappy, and if you listen to if you see the videos on Lunch King, you can hear a lot of hooting and hollering, and guys have fun. And recently, for the last 28 years that this track has been running, I used an egg timer, a high-tech egg timer, and we'd race 3 to 4 minute races, right? And when the egg timer would go off, the guy who's in the lead has his white flag lap. That's his last lap. You got 1 lap to catch up with him. And it worked great. And then last winter, my brother retired, and he said, you know what? He says that lap counter that your son's been working on for 14 years,
it's got to be done.
I'm gonna work on it. And he got his best friend from his childhood friend. He retired also, and they're golf buddies. They're in their 60s. And this friend, Frank, worked at the tank plant. And my problem was that I built a tower. You can show that tower later. It's got 7-segment displays on it, which are red LED displays. Well, that's old technology. But 14 years ago, when my son wanted me to hook things up, I made that tower with 7-segment displays. And Frank knew how to work with those and lay the groundwork out in the computer and write the program to make them work. And it was kind of fun this past winter to see them thrashing on it. it was exciting. They're high-fiving each other every time something electronically works, and that's the first time something was going on my track, and I just stood around. I felt terrible.
A little jealous.
Well, that's when I started these other shelves. The shelf for the starting line at Le Mans, and
we can show that later. And do something
else. I started working on that. But it's a success.
Yeah.
And
everybody.
And all my friends are waiting for to see it because they haven't seen it. We haven't raced all summer long. Now this fall, we're going to start racing.
Very, very nice. Jimmy, again, thank you very much for having us here. I know it's a Sunday, and I know that we went back and forth with this schedule. We had other plans, and I'm glad that I'm here. I'm glad that I made it to Detroit. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful life story of yours. to get a house and walk to work for his whole life. That's winning right there. That's quality life.
Well, we went to church yesterday and had our 50th anniversary, so you lucked out. The spot was open.
The spot was open. Good. Jimmy.
I'd have made time for you. It's an honor to meet you, buddy.
No,
and I love the work you guys do. I really do.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, when you wrote me, you said, I do these. I knew you.
I know. I don't know.
Well, I wasn't sure what you wanted. If you wanted a bunch of guys here racing to see.
No. Again, it's about you. I want you to learn what you did and how you got here.
And I think that's the success of your what do you call it? Track time?
Track call.
Track call.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's such a success.
Yeah. We need to hear about people.
Yeah.
Even like we had the opportunity to be sitting down with Chip Ganassi, Zach Brown, and
that was awesome.
They were ready to start to talk about drivers and lineup and engines. No, what happened here? How did you end up here?
And like I told you before, you have the charisma. You draw that out of them. It's awesome.
Thank you.
They start talking about stuff, and I'm pinned to it. I never heard that before.
Good. I'm trying to get informed. I'm trying to learn a little bit more about my guests before I come here. Jimmy, again, congratulations, man. It's just like it's not about the tracks, it's about the whole life you build around it. The 50-year anniversary, the GT350 over there, everything, man. The house is beautiful.
Thank you, my friend.
And you transform. You choose a craftsman style and just go for it. Beautiful. The little knocks and that have been noticed, the bright wood. Jesus, man, congratulations. Congratulations. Thank you very much for opening the house, and I hope you enjoy the video when you watch, and we're going to put a lot of links. Carlos is going to do a couple inserts so we can illustrate what we're talking about.
Yeah,
and I'm going to show some new. I have some new Corvette to show you.
Oh, good. Yeah, let's do that.
Thank you very much, Jimmy.
Okay, you're welcome, my friend.